Next question. Favorite anime tropes, least favorite anime tropes. That's another hard question to answer. It's like I said before. Well, I guess I can kind of talk about tropes in general right now. A lot of people associate tropes with like negativity, like it's inherently a negative thing. There's nothing wrong with tropes. It's common writing practices, and generally you need common writing practices to write a coherent story. What's an example? I know one. Like, there's a trope for, oh shit, I can't remember what it's called. It's kind of like the redemption moment, or like the, moment of badassery where, like, a character that hasn't been doing a whole lot of good, or generally, like, screwing things up, does, like, this huge heroic thing, and they finally, like, manage to do something, and, it's super important, and they manage to pull it off. Like, that's a trope. But it's actually a very good piece of storytelling, because it's a character that's, been down on their luck, hasn't been able to really do a whole lot, and usually that character will know this, and they'll feel, guilty or depressed because they know they aren't doing very well. And then that moment of redemption is what gives them confidence back in themselves. Tropes aren't inherently a bad thing. A lot of tropes are actually a positive thing to use. Again, it comes back to execution and how you use those tropes. I mean, if you have a moment of badassery without a character that's gone through the emotional stages of, feeling like whatever, or doing all this stuff, and then, if I were to go back into my example, like, if a character screwed up all the time, but they didn't think they screwed up all the time, like, they're like, oh man, I'm so awesome, doing all this stuff, even though they're just screwing up everything, then their moment of badassery where they actually manage to do something correctly is really shallow, because the whole time they thought they've been doing well, so, like, their moment of badassery where they actually managed to do something correctly falls on them, it falls apart, because they don't think of it as their moment of redemption so much as yet another, medal on their suit or whatever, so there's no tropes that I like or dislike. I like tropes that are used well, and I dislike tropes that are used badly. Even going back to the tropes thing, even a inherently negative trope, you could say, like a Deus Ex Machina, can be used well. Usually the only way, and there may be an exception, like maybe I just haven't seen it used in another way that works, but the way I've seen a Deus Ex Machina used well is generally in parody or comedy shows, usually as, something funny, or if they're making fun of something, they'll have a Deus Ex Machina happen, and it's like, oh, that's funny, and it's used for comedy, and that works, and even if it has, like, a kind of a storyline going with the comedy, it can work with that, but, I feel like that's still kind of a cop-out answer, but that's something I feel like I need to say, but favorite anime tropes, least favorite anime tropes. I can't answer that. I don't really have any off the, the fact that I can't think of any off the top of my head is answer enough. Like, there's nothing that inherently bothers me. As I said, just them using something badly is enough to irritate me, and then using something well is, makes me happy. That's just how it is. That's all there is to it, really. Like, I like stuff that's written well. Like everyone's always telling me, like, oh, you should stop critiquing these shows and just enjoy them. I like shows that are written well. Like, when a show is written well, I get enjoyment out of that. How are you gonna tell me that's wrong? Or I shouldn't do that? Like, that's how I get my enjoyment. If you guys like just general eye candy stuff, great for you. It doesn't really do anything for me. When a show is written well is when, when my brain synapses are all firing everywhere and it's going, oh, I'm actually getting something out of this. That's yeah. So, my favorite anime tropes are ones that are used well, and my least favorites are ones that aren't used well. I guess I could give an example of one that's not used well. The whole recent, like, incest craze that's been going on with anime lately. That's generally not used very well. If you could make it an actual plot line, like the characters actually struggling, realizing that what they're doing is not socially acceptable, and going through these stages of, practically stages of grief status, and going through this arc, you could actually make a decent romance out of that, these characters are struggling to overcome this societal barrier then it's like, damn, you know, that would actually make something pretty good story. But no, generally nowadays all it's used is, oh, she wants to fuck her brother, and that's hot because she wants to fuck her brother. Like, no, no, that's not how it works. Like, that's not going to make me root for a romance. Just because there is an obstacle, I'm not going to root for them. They need to struggle through this obstacle. They need to show growth. That's when I start rooting for them. So I guess that's an example of one. Next question. Favorite studio and why? I kind of answered this before. I like Silverlink. I like the way they experiment with their animation. Otherwise, I don't really have a favorite studio. Like, everyone likes to say how, like, studios are, like, an example of, like, what the quality of the show is going to be, and that's fucking bullshit. You know, studios have gone through their ups and downs all the time of what they've done. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, how now Madhouse is, like, not really good anymore. They used to do all these super awesome shows, like, didn't they do Death Note, I think? Like, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure they did. You know, but nowadays they're not doing really good stuff. They'll come back. They'll do a good show again, and people are like, oh, it's the return of Madhouse, even though it doesn't really mean anything. Generally, it's the source material that decides the quality of a show, not the studio. Generally, the studio just animates it. I mean, the director will have an impact, basically, on the fact if they decide to you know, adapt it literally, or they experiment with it a bit. But otherwise, the source material itself is really going to decide for the most part, you know, if something's good or not. If you have great source material, it's going to be hard to screw up. And if you have bad source material, it's going to be hard to make it good. You know, that's just how it works, you know, regardless of studio. Next question. What's your thoughts on Shonen Jump anime manga? Manga. I'm probably going to mix those pronunciations up all the time. I say manga and manga, like, all the time, so sorry if I piss someone off with that, but I use both pronunciations, and I don't even realize it. Except for right now. But anyways, my thoughts. There's a lot of anime in Shonen Jump. Like, it's not just the big three. Like, there are a lot of manga. Did I say there was anime in it? Shit. There's a lot of manga, and people are messing with their garbage outside. I hope you can't hear that. There's a lot of manga in Shonen Jump, so I can't really comment on all of them because I don't know all the ones that are in them. As far as the big three, someone actually mentioned the big three in a later question, so I'm actually going to come back to that. Don't worry, I'm not skipping your question. Someone else mentioned the big three later, as I think it was literally, what are your thoughts on the big three? And I want to come back to that later, because I have quite a few things to say. Well, I have quite a few things to say about at least one of them. The next question. Ever been to an anime convention? If not, do you ever plan to go to one? I have been going to FanimeCon for the last 4 years. I believe this coming year will be my 5th. I go every year. If you ever want to see me in real life, that is probably your best chance. But I am not going to actively look for you, and I will not set up meetings. Because I'm going to answer a question that wasn't even asked. I don't really want to show myself, because part of my whole thing about that I'm going with opinions is people will also form opinions on whether they agree with you or not for the most mundane shit. Like people will decide whether they realize it or not if they agree with you on something just even based on how you look. And I hate that. I don't want people to agree with me because I'm attractive or disagree with me because I'm ugly. I want people to agree with me if they think what I'm saying is true, and disagree with me if they think what I'm saying is not true, or if they just simply disagree, or simply agree. So that's why I'm not really big on showing myself, because then that gives someone, you know, judgment to be based on rather than simply what I am saying. So I will never set up a meeting or anything to meet up with people or anything. If you go to FanimeCon and you do find me, I'm not gonna hide myself. Like, there you go. Like, the name tags we get have both your real name and your fan name, the way they put it, as big ones, and I always have Riyogaa as my fan name on the badges, and usually those are the biggest names on the badges. So if you see me walking around, I usually spend most of my time in the artist alley or at panels. Then you know, say hello, you know. Don't go around looking at people's name tags. That's kind of creepy. I don't know if you will just happen to spot me or not. It'll be kind of weird. You can probably already Jesus Christ, someone's on a motorcycle outside. You can already tell I am white, so not that there aren't a limited amount of white people at conventions, let alone FanimeCon, but I'm just saying that gives you another limiter to go at. I haven't dressed up as far as cosplay for the last couple of years, so I'll generally be there in general, just common clothes. I don't think I have any plans to dress up this year either. So I'll just be there in general, you know, t-shirt, pants, kind of thing. So if you see me, you know, you can say hello. I probably won't agree to pictures, but I will say hello to you if you do spot me. I don't know. Maybe I'll set up a meeting at some point if it comes around that there are people, a decent amount of people that watch me that also go to FanimeCon. But like I said, I still won't allow pictures. Like, I'll meet with you, say hello, you know, we'll shoot the shit. Maybe we'll go get something to eat. I like hanging out with people. I'll socialize with you. I just, you know, like I said, I don't want people judging me based on whether I am attractive or unattractive. I want people to judge what I say based on what I say itself. And the thing is, if there's a picture out there, it gets around pretty fucking fast because this is the internet. So I'm trying to keep it limited. And by limited, I mean not at all. So there's my answer to that. I thought that was going to be a short answer. Jesus Christ. You get the longest Q&A ever. I'll never have to run a Q&A ever again. Next question. Do you watch Yaoi and Noryuri? Funny thing about this, I was actually talking to my friend about this just the other day. Just to go off on a tangent for a second, the thing I find interesting as far as both of them is the way that they're presented. With Yaoi, you generally have, like, you know, it's generally gritty and, you know, like kind of dirty and, like, rape most of the time. Like, there's the whole seme-inuke, or I don't know how to pronounce them, but seme-inuke thing, you know, going on, which is basically, like, almost like a mask to kind of disguise the fact that it is essentially rape. Like, oh, he's the dominant one, he's the one that receives. Yeah, that's called rape. So I find it weird how masculine Yaoi is. Well, I guess that kind of makes sense when I say it like that. But how gritty it is like that. And then when you come to Yuri, it's really flowery and bubbly and innocent. And it feels like the target audiences for both were mixed up. Like, I feel like it should be the other way around. I just kind of find that interesting. That's probably why there isn't really a huge Yuri fan base. Because it's so innocent and offensively so. Yaoi generally has a large fan base because they like that kind of stuff. It's down and gritty, and why not, you know? I mean, the whole rape thing is kind of creepy, but, you know, the down and gritty kind of thing it would be nice to have in, you know, a Yuri, you know, not have it always, like, super bubbly and, like, almost, like, makes me want to throw up how innocent and bubbly it is. But to answer your question, have I watched them? I don't think I've ever actually watched Yaoi. I don't really seek it out. Like, here come. Okay, here's the thing. There are people that will, like, bash people if they don't watch it because they're like, oh, you don't watch Yaoi, you're a homophobe. Dude, I don't have a problem if you like guys. Like, that's cool. Whatever. That's your thing. But I am, like, me being a straight male, I don't want to watch guys have sex. I will defend your rights to the death to do it. But I am not gonna watch it. It's like the whole thing where, like, just because I agree with it doesn't mean I'm gonna partake in it. Like, you can do it, that's lovely, but that doesn't mean I want to watch it. You know? Like, seriously. Yeah, I've watched one or two Yuri, but again, it's offensively, like, innocent, so I don't really seek it out. Sometimes I'll watch them if I care. Usually it'll be porn, not straight up Yuri. Even so, it's still usually offensively innocent, which is, you know, whatever. So I guess as a general answer, no, I usually don't watch either, both for very different reasons. I guess that's all I really have to say, though.